Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alex King and Bill G. Today is Tuesday, June the 18th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. Los Angeles, 1 p.m. London, 10 p.m. in Sydney. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I'm happy that my tongue works at all. I'm trying to work on that. Give me a little time. Still waking up, but no, it's a good day. It's a Tuesday. And interestingly enough, I am in a great mood despite the fact that we have rain, which is normally not a good thing for people who are in gardening services business because you can't go out and do anything in the garden. But no, I mean, Louise is loving it. She's actually going back to bed, just to give herself a little bit of a day off, and I'm feeling good. So I attribute that to the fact that I've been working so hard on myself for all these months to just find a way to find the positive in anything, no matter what's going on. So,
well, you get ready to take the week off because we're supposed to be 80s and higher, and it's going to be thunder and lightning up until Saturday.
So, like I said, I'm feeling really good today, and I'm going to focus on whether that is sunny and nice puffy white clouds and dry and just feels really, really good. And it's going to be that way the rest of the week. So that's the Walt forecast.
In Connecticut.
There you go.
It may be just over Simsbury area, but So how you doing? I mean, you got your ears on, Alex. I know you're in good shape whenever you got
I always got my ears on.
Yeah. Which has a different meaning. It has a different meaning from what it used to mean. It used to mean that you were a trucker, with a CB radio, but
yes,
but not so much anymore. But,
well, I mean, technically it's the same thing.
I guess it is, yeah. Except for breaker, but other than that,
Yeah, no, that's not the same.
And Bill's smiling in the background there and looking good. How are things? You're feeling a little bit better. I think you were kind of under the weather the last couple of weeks, but you look like you're feeling better.
I'm feeling great, and on top of that, law of attraction is working great for me the last couple of weeks.
How so? Anything you can talk about?
A little bit. I don't know if I've said it on this show before, but I'm actually currently serving as the president of the board of directors of the Spiritual Response Association.
Congratulations!
Yeah, well, it's been 2 months. I've been on the board for 4 months, and they made me president after month 2.
Well, that's a good sign.
Well, actually, the board was a bit thin at the time. The organization was running a little stale, and so I came on board and I started just putting in the positive energy, saying, "Okay, we're going to be shaking things up. We're going to be changing things. We're going to be making this a better organization." And one of the concerns with only we were actually down to only 2 board members, which is actually not cool. You actually can't run an organization with only 2 board members. You need a minimum of 3.
Yeah, it's not so much a board as it is a pair.
Right. But in the last 2 weeks alone, we have added 2 new board members.
Oh.
And we have 2 more applications in the pipeline.
Fabulous.
So and the people who are coming on board are having the exact skill set that we need. It is tremendous. And I could not be happier with how that's coming out. And and we've also successfully spun off another company within the. And I think I can make that announcement now that we've, the Spiritual Response Association is a nonprofit organization, but if you call them up, you can actually get a reading. You can get a clearing within a set schedule, and the schedule is available online and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we found that was really, really successful. In fact, it was a little too successful. To the point where it was actually threatening our nonprofit status.
Oh my goodness! Okay.
So what we did was we are in the process. It's fully legal now. We have successfully spun it off into its own company called the Spiritual Response Techniques Consulting Incorporated. So the SRA is the Spiritual Response Association is the sole shareholder of this for-profit company, And so this for-profit company, when after it pays its taxes and everything, it will donate all of its profits back to the SRA. And so now we're free to expand it and make it into a really cool thing.
Very interesting.
Yeah, we're very, very exciting. It's again, we're doing lots of work, very busy, but at the same time, it's really picking up.
I got to ask you a question, and it's a little bit smart ass, but I'm doing it because it's a little bit funny to ask. But when you were trying to get more people in there, were you actually using the pendulum to help you out, to help clear things out for you?
Absolutely, we do that we actually, when we get together as a board and we have a tough question to ask, we all break out a pendulum, and because we're all SRT users. So we were all practitioners. So we all break out the pendulum and say, okay, what's the percentage of benefit? What's the percentage of benefit? And then we build a consensus that way. We try not to let our egos get into the way of making decisions. And that's how the certification.
Because the other question is, do your pendulums agree?
Generally, yes. Yes, they do. Yes. Very rarely do we get a situation where one person is getting something very different from somebody else. Because once you're clear, Spirit is telling you what Spirit is. So what we do is we all do it. And if somebody is way off from the others, what we'll do is we'll research it to see if it's that person's ego or is it everybody else's ego that's getting in the way.
Has it ever been the latter?
No, it's usually just that one person.
Just the one. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because if it's all but one person, that's probably a good time to go on recess.
Yeah. Everybody take a deep breath. We're gonna
take a step back here.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great though. That you have all that kind of progress going on. That's fabulous.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I'm like I said, I'm on top of the world when it comes to that right now. And then and also something I wanted to talk a little bit about today is some of the research that I've been doing with SRT, working with clients. In my last blog post, I talked about the Abraham Hicks emotional scale and how to use that. Yeah, giving due credit, of course, because this is what you came up with. So,
well, thank you very much. Actually, it was Abraham Hicks that came up with it. I just kind of made a little chart out of it. But
you made a little chart out of it, right?
Yeah, so that's good. All right. Well, we'll get into that. And I don't know, Alex. You have kind of taken on the role of being our topic creator. Do you have a topic in mind for today too, or are we just going to do Bill?
Bill picked the topic today.
Oh, okay. Well, we talked before we came online. We talked a little bit about that, and the topic that she came up with, we decided was probably a better topic for Joel than it was for me.
Okay. All right. Well, Joel will be very pleased to hear that, I'm sure. As soon as we tell him on Thursday. All right. Well, then let's get into it. Actually, before we get into it, I should probably do the announcements. So let's get those done first. First and foremost, are you a subscriber to LOA Today? If you're not, well, it's really easy to do. You just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net, and right there at the top of the screen, you will see instructions for how to become a subscriber using your particular device, whatever device it is. Walk through the steps. It's very simple. And then from that point on, you're a subscriber. You get all the episodes coming free right to your device every single time that we publish them. And when you're subscribing, of course, make sure that you're sharing the fact that you're subscribing so that more and more people can get their daily doses of happy. And once you've subscribed for your device, why not go over to YouTube and subscribe there so you can see us. You can see our ugly mugs. No, actually, they're not ugly.
I don't know about yours. I'm gorgeous.
Especially when she has her ears on. Then she's really good.
Up like this.
Yeah, she actually comes onto the screen and just holds her hands under her chin like that every time. So we know, this is beautiful, Alex. No, seriously though, if you want to come see us do the show, record the show with the video so you can see how we are when we're interacting like this, we'd love to have you join us on YouTube. And Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you with your beautiful headset and explain to everybody everybody how to become a subscriber and how to notify on YouTube.
All right. So what you do is you go to YouTube and search for LOA Today podcast videos. And once you've done that and found us, you hit the subscribe button. And after you hit the subscribe button, you hit the little bell next to it, and that'll notify you every time we go live.
And that's so cool. And by the way, another sort of an adjunct benefit of being an LOA Today subscriber is you will also get the latest, spoiler alert, information about The Grass is Greener, the audio play that we're putting together.
But also, if you want more information on The Grass is Greener, we have a Facebook page, and we now have a discussion group.
Woo! All right. Yeah. You've been busy. That's cool.
Instagram coming soon.
All right. Yeah. Well, actually, it occurs to me we got to reach out to our actors and start getting the portraits so that we can start putting photos in too.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting on. Yeah.
Well, we got the spreadsheet, so you got access to all the addresses. You can reach out and contact people.
Facts. I'll do that.
So there you go. All right. So, all right, we've got all of the business portion out of the way. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about some SRT. So let's go to you, Bill. You can get us started on this. Where are we going to start with this?
Okay. Well, what we can start with is the Abraham Hicks emotional scale, and because I did a little bit of refining on that. It's still using the same charts, but I found online a handy dandy emotional guidance scale process legend. So this was developed by I forget who developed it, but it's a nice little spreadsheet on wherever you happen to be on the emotional scale. You can then use different techniques in order to get you a little higher on that scale. Mm-hmm. And I'm familiar with some of them. I'm not familiar with all of them just yet. I have to read the book where all this comes from is from Ask, and it is Given: Learning to Manifest Your Desires.
And there are 22 processes back there, so I'm not terribly surprised you haven't learned all of them yet.
Right. But what I find it's interesting, and this is something that Robert Detzler used to do sometimes, is when he would be given a certain technique to use to help somebody get to a better emotional scale or to clear something out, and he wasn't familiar with it, what it actually was. He would then ask Spirit to download the benefits of that particular process into the person he's working with, so that way, it's kind of a shortcut.
Okay.
So, for example, if somebody is on the emotional scale of doubt, you could, and it's a nice little matrix here. So you're on doubt. You can use the prosperity game. You can use the process of meditation. You can use meditation. You can use dream evaluation. The wouldn't it be nice exercise. That's my favorite. I love that one.
I like that one. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if that one. Tom Wells and I did an entire show on that. I mean, literally from beginning to end. We just did. We did. Did we do the whole show or did we do a partial show?
I think it was like towards the end.
Okay, because with Tom and I, we did 60 full minutes of Wouldn't It Be Nice If.
Yeah.
We just kept going back and forth with all, and I'll tell you, at the end of it, we were flying. Mm-hmm. You feel so good after an hour of doing that. I mean, they recommend doing it for a few minutes. You do an hour of it, and you're practically out by Alpha Centauri. I mean, it's just really amazing.
Great. Yeah, and then you got also the which thought feels better, the process of clearing clutter for clarity, the wallet process. I don't know what the wallet process is.
The wallet process is fun.
Yeah.
That's one that you're actually better off doing with somebody else. Kind of like wouldn't it be nice if that's also good to do with somebody else. Mm-hmm. But the wallet process is basically a way to set a mindset of abundance, of wealthy abundance, of money abundance. Mm. And literally what you do is you keep a certain amount of money and then you spend it all day long.
Oh.
Over and over and over and over and over again.
Okay.
You do it mentally. You're doing it mentally.
Oh, you're doing it mentally. You're not actually.
No, well, you can't. I mean, if you got that much money, you can.
Oh, because I physically do it every day.
Well, you can do that too.
I'm on Amazon every day.
But you can also do it mentally with the idea of, let's say you keep, I don't know, a couple $100 in your wallet, which is, a fair amount of cash to carry. And then you just go shopping. And you go window shopping, you go into stores, you go, wherever it is you want to do, whatever kind of shopping you want to do. And then you just imagine, oh, wow, I could buy this. Or, oh, I could buy this. Oh, I could buy this. And you just get more and more excited about all the stuff you can buy with your $200 or whatever the amount is. And by doing that, you basically eliminate or rewrite old programs that get in the way that say, well, I really can't afford that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, it all works together. Isn't that awesome?
Oh yeah, it's fabulous.
So anyway, and there are others. So, you find yourself in that doubt space. Then you go to the matrix here and you're like, okay, let's download and apply these processes, even if you don't know what they are, or you can take the time to actually look them up or, buy the book and read about them and actually go through the process. And that's if you don't want to do it from an SRT perspective. From an SRT perspective, you would treat this the same way as you would what we call the alpha to omega clearing, where you're trying to increase the conscious level of your soul, and you do that by figuring out where you're stuck, and then go and find the programs on the charts until you figure out what it is what's the block, and then you ask high self to clear it. I mean, it's the same thing, just using a different technique, and
sure.
Which is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm anxious to actually buy this book and get a chance to read it, because that looks really, really cool.
Asking It Is Given?
No, Asking Is Given. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's actually one of the first Abraham books I ever bought, and I will put out a sort of a warning to people who are new to LOA. Don't make that your first book. It's a tough first book for Law of Attraction. If you want a first book, I recommend the Abraham Hicks book called The Law of Attraction. That's really the best primer on the market as far as I'm concerned. But if you have experience with the Law of Attraction, Asking It Is Given is a terrific book. It's like most of the other books about Law of Attraction, because all the books seem like they're saying the same thing over and over again. And on the surface they are. But when you get into that book, and actually all of the Abraham Hicks books, when you get into the book and you start reading it carefully, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, you find that there are layers and layers and layers of information in there, and you won't get to them if you read them quick, if you just scan through the book quickly. You have to read it in depth and then think about what they're saying and realize, wait a minute, they're actually alluding to something very, very specific here. And I was treating it as a surface thing, but it's not. It's not surface at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I recommend the book. It's a great book. Very, very good.
Yeah. Excellent. Another one that I've developed recently is a set of charts for clearing writer's block.
No kidding.
Yeah. In fact, not this weekend, but the following, on Saturday, June the 29th, I'll be at the American Society of Dowsers National Convention giving a talk on this subject, using dowsing to clear writer's block. So I developed a set of charts that you can use to figure out what you were going to write that day.
Okay.
Which is for people who are professional writers or people who write blogs on a regular basis. Coming up with topics can be challenging.
So let me interrupt there for a second and ask Alex. Because Alex, you and I have been writing The Grass is Greener. We wrote the first episode. We're going to write some more episodes. Have you run into writer's block? Has that been something you've had to deal with at all?
Nope.
No.
Not even slightly?
Nope.
See, you're one of the perfect ones, and you're the ones we throw things at. So. Wow, that's really impressive, though.
Yeah.
No, once I get started, You know, the only reason I was telling PJ that it was going to take us a week to write an episode is because you're so slow, because I can write it in a day. Like, I was like, well, I can do it in like, I don't know, a day, but, you know, I got to get Walt's part, you know, in between everything he's doing, so.
Okay, well, I think the challenge has been thrown down.
Yeah.
Has been thrown.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, when you're working on a main project like that, especially when you're in the beginning stages, you know, you just got done episode 1 and you're working on episode 2 and whatever, it's you got a good momentum going. You know, you know where you're going, you're very excited about it. By the time you get to episode 5 or 6, you may be at a point where you're like, okay, I don't know where this is going. These characters are starting to feel a little stale to me, or whatever. You know, something might be happening at that point, and that's when writer's block comes in, or some self-doubt comes in, or you're like, okay, I just painted this character into a corner, and I don't know how to get him out.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, and you know, and the TV network sometimes will just kill off that character when that happens. But
well, that's one. There's another way to do it. The other way to do it is just rewrite that section of the script, just start over.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about you've already aired.
Oh, you've aired it. Oh, I see.
You've already aired the prior episode that put them in the corner in the first place, or you've already filmed the episode or recorded the episode that put them in the corner in the first place, and now you're like, oh, crap, I'm committed now.
How do I get going to fall down an elevator shaft? Then
yeah.
I think part of it though is just believing whether or not whether you're going to be able to come up with something. If you
right.
If you believe that you will, you will. I mean, I for instance, I'm going to do a real throwback here to a 1980s television series, Bob Newhart Show.
Oh yeah.
And the big question was how do you wrap up? I mean, it was actually there were really 2 versions of the show. And this was the second version. It had been going for years, and they wanted to draw it to a conclusion. They weren't really sure how to do it, and the big discussion was, how do you conclude this thing? Well, they came up with a brilliant approach. The brilliant approach was the episode played out most of it of the episode, and at the very end, you reach this, like you said, it's kind of like a dead end. Like, how do you get out of this dead end? And then all of a sudden, you switch to a scene where Bob wakes up, laying in bed next to his wife from the first episode, said, whoa, what a dream I just had.
Yeah. I know a lot of shows that have done that.
You know, I mean, there's always a way out. It's just a question of whether you believe there's a way out. If you believe there's not a way out, then you're going to have writer's block. No doubt about it.
Right,
I don't subscribe to writer's block.
Yeah. And Married with Children did a whole season of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen to your show. I'm not suggesting
it's
that
going to be honest.
Nope.
But what a lot of writers run into, though, when especially if they're writing, novelists run into this.
Yeah.
And you're writing a epic story with multiple storylines, and I've run into this myself because I've written a couple of novels myself, and so. What you can do sometimes is put it down and write something else just to get the juices flowing. And this is not something necessarily that you're going to be doing, that you're planning on publishing. This might just be a writing exercise. You know, one of those exercises is just break out a pen or get on your keyboard and just write nonsense. Just to get it flowing and whatever. Mm-hmm. And that works for some people and doesn't work for other people. However, these charts are mostly designed for people who are working on a deadline. So, you need to come up with something fresh every day. People who work for professional blogging companies or people who work in PR or whatever, they got to constantly come up with stuff.
Let me ask you something, because I can't say that I've had a lot of experience with writer's block. There have been times where the ideas weren't coming easily, and that's what I'm thinking about at the moment, but I've never had a time where, for like weeks on end, I just couldn't think of anything that I wanted to write. But on those occasions where I found that the ideas were coming slowly, what I really discovered was that I wasn't allowing myself to dream.
Right.
I wasn't allowing myself to just go into that flow of creativity. And so it really wasn't about clearing writer's block. It was really about allowing myself to dream again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And removing whatever influences I put in the way that were essentially blocking me, I guess you could say, blocking me from accessing my own internal process. Maybe that's what writer's block is. Maybe writer's block is nothing more than, refusing to dream or not allowing yourself to dream.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So anyway, the way the charts work for this is, the first chart one is choosing a theme, and it's got another fan chart with a whole bunch of different themes on it. And, so you just allow the pendulum, you just say, okay, what am I writing about today? And then it says, okay, I'm going to write something DIY. Okay. So then you say, okay, I'm going to write a DIY, article. And then you go to chart 2 is negative blocking energies, which is similar to the circle chart in that Detzler uses. And what you're doing here is you're choosing the negative theme that you need the conflict to overcome. So, okay, so let's say doubt comes up. So DIY and there's doubt. Okay, so you're going to be writing an article about something that you don't think you can do. And so you go to the next one, which is the positive affirming energies. And so we got DIY, doubt, and then you'll have confidence. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to be doing a DIY article about something that you don't think you can do, but how to gain confidence in doing it. So now you have a focus, you're going to be doing that. And then chart number 4 is a blank chart. And the reason why it's blank is that what I call your wheelhouse chart. And so on your wheelhouse chart, you're going to be filling in all the things that you know how to do and some things that you're an expert in. And so say you're an expert in drywall. So you're
yes, I like drywalls.
So you're an expert in drywall, and that's one of the things on your fan chart. Say you're a blogger or a vlogger who does construction videos or DIY, Okay. So now the question of the blog is how to make those spackle seams. When you're putting up drywall, you get those terrible seams sometimes where you got to put the spackle over and whatever, and you sand it, and you still see it. You still see the tape. It's terrible.
Right.
And some people who don't know how to do that, do a terrible job at it. Whenever you walk into a room that's been renovated and you see all that stuff there, you're like, oh my God, this person didn't know what they were doing. And so the doubt is, I can't do it because I'm not artistic enough, or I don't have a good eye, or whatever. And then the theme is confidence. We're going to give you some confidence in how to do it because we're going to show you some really, really cool tips, and it's going to be on how to properly tape and spackle a wall.
So what you're basically describing is narrowing down a topic for somebody who is already in this case, a drywall expert to write on their blog about drywall. Not to create a topic that you know nothing about and kind of make it up as you go along.
Absolutely. You don't want to be writing. You don't want to be writing about something you have absolutely no knowledge
people
about.
Often do that,
Right.
Well, that's why he said to make the chart and write down what you're an expert at.
Right.
Well,
right.
I know you said that, but I'm also thinking about people like, I'm going to go to one of the forbidden topics, the world of politics.
Uh-huh.
There are a whole bunch of people who write a whole bunch of stuff and they have no idea what they're writing.
Facts.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even have to get into the specific positions on issues. I mean, everybody has noticed this. There are a whole bunch of people who write a whole bunch of stuff that they have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
So clearly, you can perceive yourself to be an expert on it and still not have any idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. There's a fine line between expert and opinion.
That's why the Wheelhouse chart is extremely important, especially if you're writing a political article. then you write down the Wheelhouse Chart. What do you really know?
Mm.
You know, all the various subtopics of politics that, you know, how much do you really know about economics? How much do you really know about foreign policy? And you can put all that on there, on that Wheelhouse Chart, things you actually know something about, as opposed to just talking off the cuff.
Now, I will say that most people who are writing about politics don't have writer's block. I mean, it just flows out. It just keeps coming and coming, and you sit back and say, do I really want to read all this?
Well, actually, doing it this way, you're going to have a harder time writing an article like that, because on the chart too about the negative stuff, yeah, you can come up with the negative stuff, but you also have to counteract it with a positive.
Oh.
Because you need to overcome whatever negative block that you've discovered. You know, you're going to write an article about politics. Okay, I'm going to write about politics. So let's just go through the exercise real quick. We go choosing a theme. So we're going to write about politics, and we're going to make it about helping others, because that's where the pendulum went.
Okay.
Okay, so all right, we're going to write our political article about helping others, and then the negative block is shame. So helping people deal with shame on a political level, and then we're going to overcome it with strength.
So what you're talking about here is taking an entirely different approach to writing, or to really any other activity, because, I mean, you're talking about writer's block here, but it could really apply to a wide range of things. Taking an approach that is not typically the approach that's taken. Typically, the approach is about being critical, especially in politics, particularly in politics, but in a wide range of other things too. I mean, you look at you mentioned DIY. You look at a DIY article. Most DIY articles start off with things that you're doing wrong. You know, they aren't exactly positively oriented. Like, isn't that a wonderful wall that you painted there? You never see a DIY article like that.
Well, again, it's about overcoming something with overcoming a negative with a positive. I mean, imagine now, you know, we've got this article now. We got this idea of helping others get over shame with strength, and now we go to the wheelhouse, and then your wheelhouse is going to have all of the political issues that you are an expert in. It could be LGBT issues. It could be, you know, wherever your wheelhouse is. And now you've got yourself an article. You've got something that you can talk politics, or you can just talk about helping people overcome a negative emotion by turning it into something strong. And you can make it political if you want, or you can make it into just affirming, you know, making it positive. Imagine if more people who wrote political articles would just follow that approach, that we're going to take a general theme, we're going to take whatever negative emotion that is attached to that, because, face it, in politics, there's a negative emotion attached to everything.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I have a little doubt about whether or not this would actually be functional in the political environment, because politics is all about the negative.
It's about advocacy. But again, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to change the rules of the game. If more people will just stop harping on the negative. And,
good luck with that.
Well, the thing is, I don't pay attention for a good reason.
Yeah, right.
I don't for a good reason, but it would be nice. Wouldn't it be nice if there was more people, if more people would concentrate their political writing on overcoming negative things rather than just focusing on the negative and blaming the other side for it.
No, for me, that wouldn't be nice is a statement like this. Wouldn't it be nice if people actually wrote about what they want instead of writing political articles about what they don't want? Because politics is about writing what you don't want. You know, so I'm saying, wouldn't it be nice if they just kind of replaced all that? Just, you know, I'm going to put the political stuff aside, and I'm just going to write about what I want. what I really desire, whether it be about how I want society to be, or how I would, what kind of people I want to interact with, and what kind of behaviors they would exhibit, and what kind of behaviors I would exhibit in interacting with them. What do I actually want? What do I prefer? What makes me feel good?
Right.
And the moment you do that, you're outside of the realm of politics. That's why I say.
Well, I would hope that eventually more people in politics would get there, because
I've always felt that there would be more people in politics who would become less people in politics.
Right. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we were concentrating more on solving problems and making people feel included, rather than
the opposite.
Constantly using fear, using anger, using shame to get your point across. Mm-hmm. It would be a better world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really comes down to every individual who's listening to the show and whatever, making that choice. If you're a type of person who who I used to be, who was a political junkie, who just got off on just reading article after article, advocacy after advocacy, just blaming the other side and feeling rotten about it, to just say, I'm going to make a positive contribution here, and I'm going to speak my heart rather than speak my mind.
Well, it's an interesting fine line, and it's one that we've run into with the audio play. Because the audio play, I mean, Alex, I think will agree with this, is that first episode is like loaded with dysfunctionality. It's just absolutely packed, from beginning to end with dysfunctionality. So you have to you do have to kind of dip your toe into the contrast in order to write about the contrast. The question isn't so much whether you're going to have to deal with the negativity. It's going to be there. And negativity, by the way, even that term is a little bit misleading. It's really more about dipping your toe into the stuff that you may not like. Right. And discovering that you don't like it, discovering that it doesn't feel really good to you. But that's part of the process, because as we all know, when you're trying to learn how to be a deliberate creator, you dip your toe in, you find the part that you don't like, you say, I don't like that, here's what I like instead, and I'm going to focus there, and that's how I'm going to deliberately create this thing that I would actually prefer. So that's the process. So with the play, what we're trying to do is lay out this really dysfunctional scene, and then starting with episode 2, we're going to start changing the choice over. Okay, I don't like this. I really, 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 really don't like this and this and this and this. What do I want instead? Well, actually, I want this, and I prefer that, and that's where I want to go. But I keep looking over here at this, and that's how we're going to actually write this play. I mean, that's the way I'm seeing it anyway. I mean, am I describing it right for you, Alex?
I feel like, well, yes, but I feel like it's all in how you filter your bubble.
Talk about that. What does that mean? Because
when I'm writing, yes, it's full of dysfunctionality, but that entertains me. So
well, you're a strange person anyway. No,
I am. I'm a different breed. But that's the majority of society right now. Like,
absolutely,
this dysfunctionality entertains you. So it's not. I don't see it as negative. I see it as we're going to be helping people with the end result of this. So that's what I mean about filtering your bubble is.
Okay. Well, then let me ask you, do you believe that the reason, or one of the reasons, I guess it's not going to be just one reason, but do you believe that one of the reasons why people are so entranced, I guess is probably the word, by all this dysfunctional stuff that you see in the stories that are told in the movies, on television, in theater, and so forth, because they're hoping to get to a better place, or because they just want to kind of, swim around in how ugly it is so they can say, oh, this is terrible, I really hate this, I really hate this, I really hate this.
I don't think it's either. I think it's it's like when you go to the movies, you want to take a break from your reality for a little while.
Okay. So you basically want to go suffer in somebody else's reality for a while.
Well, you're not suffering it. You're witnessing.
You're witnessing.
You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like when you go to the monster truck rally, like you don't want to drive in the car crashing into other cars, but you sure do want to see that fire.
Okay. I can't honestly say I've gone to a monster truck rally.
I haven't either. I just came up with that analogy right now.
Okay. Because I'm thinking there are going to be some people going to that monster truck rally who are there so that they can actually envision themselves driving the truck that's driving
some of them, yes.
cars and so forth.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like why, I watch a lot of dramas and hoping that I will be acting in one day or be writing one day. And here we are.
There you are, doing both.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's going to be a star. Did you know that, Bill?
Absolutely.
I was already a star. So.
Well, you're a star of our show here for sure.
Well, thank you.
I mean, we already knew that part was easy. So, all right. So let's get back to what you were talking about, Bill, because basically I think what you're talking about here is using SRT not just to help clear stuff, but now also to help us make decisions about where we want to go and what we want to do and what we want to focus on.
Right.
And I see a benefit and I see a potential risk. So I wanted to hear what your take is on it. The benefit is that it helps generate ideas. It helps you, get something going. The risk is that it could actually train you to look a little bit outside yourself to get ideas rather than looking internally. Well,
that's not entirely true because when you're focusing on the pendulum and whatever, you are focusing on within. The pendulum doesn't reflect what is outside; it reflects what's inside because it is a mirror of the subconscious, of your subconscious.
Okay.
It describes the things that you want to overcome, not necessarily what you feel that the world will overcome and whatever. These things that, even when you go back to politics, what do people really interested in? It's things that they feel affect them on a personal level. What they feel threatened by, what they feel. So it's all about, it's an internal process no matter how you look at it. So
I think that's true. But you also said the magic words. It is a reflection of what it is that we're seeing, and reflections come from without. So that's why I'm saying there can be a tendency to kind of start relying on, well, what is the reflection telling me, rather than what am I feeling inside?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, it was Neville Goddard that said that there's the world reflection or mirror or something like that. And you were mentioning that some Neville Goddard followers took that to an extreme, saying that you don't actually exist. You're just a mirror.
Yes. It's a little problematic. That's part of just dealing with words. We deal with, which is, you're talking about writers. That's what writers have to deal with. Writers have to deal with words, and words can be a little slippery because they have different definitions. They have different meanings. Look up a particular word and it has 5 different meanings, and none of them are connected to each other. That can be tough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still ascribe to the idea that the world is your mirror in a lot of ways, even though people that you run across are real people. They're not just figments of your imagination. I had a client the other day who's in the later years of her life. Her husband recently passed away, and she's just recently discovering what it is to be alive, and not within that paradigm anymore. Mm-hmm. And she takes very good care of herself. She's very fit, and she was just waiting to get her tires changed at a place here in town. And this woman rides by on her bicycle, asking for directions where a particular hotel was, because that's where she was going to be staying. And they got to talking, and this person had, we live in Vermont. This person came all the way from eastern New Hampshire and was riding her bike all the way to Lake Ontario.
She had biked there.
Wow.
She had biked there.
Ooh,
and this woman was 72 years old.
Oh, I love it.
And so she couldn't believe that this woman was 72 years old and had biked all the way from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, all the way to Rutland, Vermont, and was going to be continuing on and was staying in hotels. She didn't want to camp. So she's not camping, so she's just staying in hotels, but she's riding her bike all the way to Lake Ontario and back.
Wow. That's a haul.
And it is a haul. And the thing is, it got my client thinking. She's like, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so she's here sitting, we're in session, and she's like, did this person actually exist? Was this an angel that came down to tell me this all? And, you know, it's checking it's like, no angel, this was a real person. But the fact that you're bringing it up now means that she was a mirror for you. And she is telling you something about yourself that maybe this is maybe not biking to Lake Ontario or biking cross country, but doing something really, really active for yourself, having an adventure. That's something you probably should be thinking about.
Yeah. Adventure is what life is all about.
Right.
I mean,
right.
That's what the grass is greener is for me. It's an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And that's the way you see it, right, Alex?
Yep, definitely.
Because
Right.
without the adventure, why bother to write the thing? I mean, we're putting ourselves through a lot whenever we're writing this stuff. Because we have to live that scene for the moment that we're writing it. You know, so why do that unless we're really enjoying it?
No, I filtered my bubble.
Yeah. And also the characters in your book are accumulations of people you've met in your life. Or you know, you're sitting in a restaurant and you see, you know, this family arguing with each other, and you happen to overhear it because they're being very loud about it. And you're like, and then after they leave, you're thinking, that's a scene. And then you put it in your little, you know, your memory bank there. And then when you're writing a scene about your characters having an argument in a restaurant, you're like, maybe I can use some of that.
Yeah, sure.
And then, you know.
One of my favorite TV quotes: "Good writers borrow from other writers. Great writers steal outright."
Right.
And that's really what that is. That's just taking from real life and just writing it down and saying, "Oh, I invented that."
Right.
Well, that's what The Grass is Greener is. It's basically a loosely based true story.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is the best way to write anyway, writing from your experience. That's like what Bill was talking about earlier. You don't write about something you don't know anything about. Well, not unless you want to be laughed off the stage. But by the way, that was one of the reasons why I reached out to the co-host. I was really happy when you said yes, you were interested in the project, because I knew there were going to be things in there that I would need to write about that I didn't have direct experience with. But I figured bring somebody else in who has their own experiences. There's going to be enough overlap there. Now we can find something to cover more of what we need to cover in the show. And that's the way it's working out. In fact, now Carissa, who's our Nance, who's our lead character, last thing she told us was, by the way, I've been working on some script ideas myself. And I thought to myself, oh, how cool is this?
Yeah.
The more people we get in there, bringing in really real world ideas that they've, based on stuff they've experienced, the better the whole show's going to become, I think.
Yep.
All right. Well, the last thing I wanted to bring up is a protocol my wife and I have been working on. We've been doing some relationship work with some people. And there are 3 different types of relationships. I mean, at least ones that really have some significance. And that is your twin flame relationships, your flamemate relationships, and your soulmate relationships. And your soulmate relationships, those are I call those the tame relationships, because when you're with a soulmate, it's you're more with your life partner. But on the other side of the extreme is your twin flames. Because twin flame relationships tend to be very passionate, but they also tend to be your most problematic relationships, because the way that it works soul-wise is that when your soul is first formed, and again, we're getting into the woo esoteric here. So without going too far into that, there are only 11 people in the world that you are a twin flame with.
Let's define some terms here a little bit, too.
Okay.
What is a twin flame? What is a soulmate?
Okay. So when you're looking at the family tree of souls, when souls are first created from the very, very beginning, you got source. You got source energy, which is all souls, all wrapped up into one big ball of stuff.
Okay.
And then as it wants to learn more about existence through experience, pieces of it get split off, and these become individual, what we call at the Godhead or the One level. At the Godhead or the One level, these souls are provided with instructions, some contrast to experience. Then they split off even further into individual souls, and those individual souls then become incarnated, and then they have those experiences and they bring them back up. And then that's all part of the downward motion and then the upward ascension motion. Because ascension is simply, when the word ascension means to rise, and so you're raising the vibration of your soul back up to source. When you have a flame mate, I mean, not a flame mate, a twin flame, those particular soul pairings are closer to source than other soul branches. And because you're closer together than at that instructional level, it causes conflict because it's like.
What does that mean? I got to interrupt you. What does that mean? Closer to source.
It's difficult to explain on a radio show. It's
do we need to know?
it's because there's a visual involved in terms of the some people see it in the terms of a lotus flower, some people see it in terms of a continuum where the source is at the top. Imagine it's like a family tree where you've got the number one at the top, the one person at the top, and then you got two parents below that, and then it splits off and splits off and splits off.
Generationally, okay.
Generationally. Where we are is at the bottom level, the very bottom level, away from that first top source,
Okay.
Very top of the tree. A twin flame is someone who is closer, instead of being all the way down on that bottom level of souls, go up a couple of levels, and that's where you guys are as flame mates. As twin flames.
So what you're describing is two souls that have a connection, and the connection was made very early on in that splitting off process.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Got it.
All right.
See, I'm not all that slow, Alex. I can piece stuff together pretty quickly.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So there's actually two aspects of this, and that's just talking about what they call the twin flame without. The twin flame without is when you're dealing with two separate souls. There's also healing that has to happen, what they call the twin flame within, and this is based off of the work of Mikio Sankey, which is the father of esoteric acupuncture. So,
let me interrupt for one more moment here, because there are many people who become, I won't say many, there are a number of people who will become obsessed with the idea of hooking up with their twin flame.
Yes.
Based on what you just described, the first question that comes to my mind is, what's the big deal?
What the big deal is, and you'll find this when you actually meet people who are twin flames, is that it is a very, very strong connection. These are relationships that usually when you meet this person, you are with this person for life, or if you're not with this person for life, you're always thinking about that person. So, if you've never experienced it before, you have no idea what I'm talking about. If you have experienced this before, then you're like, right on. That's exactly how it is.
Okay, but regardless of whether one's experienced it or not, I think we can understand it well enough, just based on what you described there,
right, to
realize that what the persons involved are doing is they are basically getting excited about having a connection with somebody where everything is just so mirrored, and everything is, everything I think they think, everything I experience they experience. We've had this, all these parallels. But what I see when I read about people or read the comments of people on social media who are, I got to find my twin flame, to my way of thinking, to my perception, it sounds a lot more codependent.
Yes.
It's
It
like,
is.
I've got to have that other person, otherwise I can't be complete. That feeling of, oh my God, this person is exactly the way I'm thinking. They're feeling what I feel. They like what I like. They choose what I choose. They eat what I eat. If I don't have that, my life is incomplete.
That makes no sense. You don't want to date yourself.
Right. And that's the biggest danger when you meet your twin flame, is turning it into a codependent relationship because of that really, really deep connection. And it's because there's an imbalance within yourself, which we call the twin flame within. And so the protocol we developed is to heal the twin flame within in order to allow the twin flame relationship, the twin flame without, to function more effectively. Because again, I'm now, and since I developed this protocol, I now have 4 clients that I'm working with this particular protocol, because they hear about it and they're like, oh, gotta have some. Because because these people, these couples tend to have very strong arguments, even though they have usually a very powerful sexual relationship or a very powerful connection. They also have really bad fights.
Which is an interesting thing. And I'll mention why I think it's an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm kind of speculating here, but I think that the people who are searching out that twin flame, who really want to have that twin flame relationship, or they've already met somebody and they have that twin flame relationship.
Right.
I get the impression that what they believe on some level is, if I have so much in common with this other person, there will never be any disagreement.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And which
actually doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
I mean, because it doesn't matter whether you both emerged from the Godhead, as you described, at the same time, right next to each other, or you were next to each other 5 generations down. It really doesn't make any difference, because all of us are going into this contrasting situation. We're all exploring things about, we like this, we don't like that. And when you do that, it doesn't matter whether or not you came out of the same ball of energy at the same time, same place, next to each other. It doesn't make any difference. What matters is you're both going to be making different choices from that point on.
Right.
So
and actually, couples that tell me that, oh no, we never argue, or we very rarely argue, chances are they're soulmates. Because a soulmate relationship is more of a partnership. But people who say, oh no, we are fighting all the time, then it's more likely that you're either a flame mate or a twin flame relationship, because of the fact that it's such high passion. Now, people are seeking it out because because those twin flame relationships, they're super, super powerful, in the sense that you not only feel like you belong with this person, but the passion is like off the scale.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have never experienced this, but again, I work with couples who have, and by and large, because for my way of thinking, my Libra mind is saying, who's constantly seeking the balance. My first thought is, why the heck would anybody want that?
Well, I can at least conceive of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think people might want it because they feel that if they can experience it that way, and this is kind of like on a subconscious level, if they can experience it that way, then maybe they can reinforce for themselves just how powerful they are themselves.
Right.
You see it in somebody else, it's perhaps easier to also see it in yourself. I think that's probably what the attraction is. Now, again, I can't say I've ever had that kind of really, really intense thing where, oh my God, this person is just consuming me. I've never had that. I've had situations where I could tell I was giving my power away, and in that sense, perhaps I was feeling it. But yeah.
I also think that people are confused with they're like, oh, I want my twin flame, but they're confused that twin flame and soulmates are not in one. No, like they think they're looking for their twin flame because they want to find their soulmate, and it's not the same thing. So
no, it's not the same thing. Yeah.
So I'm glad we defined the terms. Otherwise, it gets even more confusing.
Right. Yes.
And so when there's conflict in a twin flame relationship, it's because there's a problem in the twin flame within. There is the energy is not flowing properly. That there is discord within the different layers of soul consciousness within that twin flame creation. And so the protocol is all about healing all of that. And and I have to say that the results have been extremely promising. I've done several clearings using this protocol, and the reports back from clients, afterwards. Now, this isn't a right away type of thing, of course. This is something that takes time to integrate, but the feedback I've been getting has been extremely positive in terms of making those relationships better, and if not the relationship better, the sense of peace within the individual that I'm working with has been much, much better. So,
that's good. That's a good place to stop too, because we're out of time for our hour. But actually, I think we could probably spend more time talking about this twin flame and soulmate stuff. We could probably just do a whole show on that if we really wanted to. And it occurs to me, based on your definition, I guess by your definition, by what you're describing, I guess Louise and I are soulmates. The interesting thing is, I've never thought of her as a soulmate. Actually, to me, it's just somebody I enjoy having a relationship with, and I don't need to turn into something more than that. I don't need to say Louise is my soulmate. I don't need to say that she's my twin flame. I don't need to say any of that. It's just I like my relationship with her. That's all there is to it.
And that is the definition of a soulmate.
Okay. But here's the interesting thing. I think what that proves is that there's not just one soulmate.
Absolutely. You've got a lot more soulmates out there than you have twin flames.
I would say that it's virtually universal.
Yeah. You have a lot there. I forget what the numbers are, but it goes out exponentially from the twin flame to the flame mate to the soulmate. So you got a lot of soulmates out there. You got hundreds of soulmates. But it's because you're a little further up on the tree, the numbers are smaller.
So that's my takeaway for the show, and that is, don't sweat finding a soulmate. You can hardly go out there without stumbling over one. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. Yes, but if you're hellbound and determined to get a twin flame, you're in for a ride.
This is it. All right. Well, word to the wise. There we go. So thank you very much for sharing all that, Bill. We appreciate that. And thank you, Alex, for all your insights. I'm looking forward to continuing the development of The Grass is Greener. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're getting ready to go into rehearsal. That's going to be great. I mean,
yeah.
Of course, that means you and I, we have more of a job to do because we're producers as well as scriptwriters. So we got to help get the publicity machine going while they're doing the rehearsing, so we got our work cut out for us. But it's all good. So thank you very much. Thank you to our live stream listeners. Thank you to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody. Stop that, turn off the recording, and